today and you're here at my home. Welcome. We are going to be teaching you a little bit today about how to reuse and make some creative items from things you probably already have around your house. In this way we can reduce our trash, so we can throw away less things. We can put less things in the landfill and reuse things and help save the earth that way. Now, I don't know about you, but I get a lot of cards for Christmas. So I like to keep my winter cards each year and save them. Don't throw them out. I know they're pretty to look at through the Christmas holidays, but save them. What I like to do is cut the front off and just make a new card out of it. And this way, I never have to buy winter greeting cards. So what you'll need is some scissors and some white recycled cardstock, and a brush, a little jar of water, and some regular glue, and a pen or a pencil. So what I like to do first is trace the outline of this card onto some white cardstock so you know where you're going to want to fold it. So just line it up like this, and then we're going to trace around it. And when that's done, we're going to cut out the white cardstock. In this way, if somebody has written a message to you on the inside of the card, you can cut that part off and just reuse it. So there's our tracing. So now we just cut that out. We're going to cut the front off this card. And the reason that I use a brush with the glue is that you want to get a nice smooth layer of glue on your card. You don't want to just use your glue bottle and go like that and smack it down on there, because you'll end up with bubbles and bumps, and that will make your card look less pretty. So I'm going to cut this out, fold it, and glue the front on. Okay, so now we have our card, and we've cut out the paper to match, and we're just going to use a little bit of this glue here. And I'm going to use the back of the card here that had the message on it, and I'm just going to put a little glue on here. And one other thing you can do is not throw away your scraps of paper. So when you cut out that cardstock and you're left with a strip, you might want to cut this in half and make 2 bookmarks out of it. You can decorate those and draw or color or use chalk on there. So I'm using the back of this old card to mix my glue up, and I got my brush a little bit damp. So now what I want to do is, you don't want to use a lot of water with it, because you don't want your glue to be really runny, or what will happen is you'll have bubbles. So I'm just going to paint some glue on here, and again, you want it to be nice and smooth all the way to the edges. Make sure you do this on like an old paper bag or some kind of drop cloth onto your table, so you don't get glue on your nice table. Okay, and when you're done with that, you can put that right on there and line it up and press it down. One of the ways I like to press things down, if they're paper, 2 pieces of paper like this, is to get something firm that's flat. Like, you know, I've used a credit card before, or you can use folded up another card or something to push down on there, and that will help smooth that out. You could even use a little popsicle stick. If you don't press too hard, you don't want to scratch your new card. So when that's all dry, then you can just fold your card like this, line it up with the other side, and fold it down. And squeeze the top part pretty good, and you've got a new card that's blank inside, ready for you to reuse. I noticed the back of this card has a really pretty little design here. It's got kind of a little crescent moon. I'm going to cut that out, and I think I'm going to glue that on the little strip of white cardstock to make part of a bookmark. Now this will actually go really nicely with the card. If I glue that on there, I can write a little message or draw on it, and I can include that in the card. So be on the lookout for things that still have value that you can use over and over again so you don't have to throw things away. All right, for our next project, we're going to be recovering an old cardboard box. So I've got this pet food box here, and this is pretty good sturdy cardboard. When you open it up, you'll notice it even has a reinforcement of cardboard inside to make it extra sturdy. So this kind of box could be recycled, but I think I'm going to make it into a sewing kit. It's just the right size to slip under my bed or to put on the closet shelf to make a nice sewing kit. So what I'm going to do first is take some fabric here, and I've got a piece that's about the right size. I'm going to lay it with the wrong side down like this, and you can see I've got my scissors ready and my glue and a brush, and I'm going to open the box and lay it out like this just to kind of see this edge here, how wide I want my fabric to be. And I'm going to put I'll do it this way so you can see. I'm going to put the lid of the box open and lay it down on here. And then if I take this fabric and just pick it up, almost like I'm wrapping a present, and just put it like this on the edges, I can see about where I'm going to need to cut it off here. So I'm just going to make a little mark with the scissors there. Now I'm going to cut this edge off so we'll have the right size fabric on the long way. And then, now I save all my little scraps and pieces of fabric and little bits of thread and yarn in this little mug here, so someday I could reuse all of these to like stuff a doll or something, or even you can use little scraps like that to stuff a little pillow for your dog, right, Brooke? She's over here watching, but she's taking a nap too. So now we've got our length of the fabric this way. Now we just have to cut it the other way. So I'm going to make a little mark with the scissors, and then we can move our box and cut it the other direction. Again, I'm going to save this fabric. I can use it for something. I can glue it onto a piece of scrap paper to make a bookmark, or I could use it to make doll clothes, or use it in a dollhouse, or for a part of just about anything. You can make a hair tie. You can save that to decorate a journal. I'm going to put it in my little cup here. Now we've got our fabric ready, and we're going to just paint glue with our paintbrush on the outside of our box and go nice and slow and just recover this box. And now the strip of fabric I've made is going to cover this part of the box, but we still have the ends. So we'll have to use another piece of fabric or colored paper and cover up those ends too. And if you want, you can decorate the inside of the flap here too. So what I would do is just go ahead and get your glue. This is the glue we had left over from our card making activity, and just start painting it on here. And again, you don't want it too thin. You want it to be fairly thick glue so you don't get too many bubbles in your cardboard. It kind of puckers up when it gets too wet. So just paint that on. I would do one side at a time. So first paint this side, then put the fabric on, then paint the next side. Start at the top. You want to make sure you get line up your edges so it doesn't start to get crooked on you. And if we want to decorate this and make it a little prettier, we can also take some bias tape, which is like little fabric tape, and we can put that on the edges here when we're all done. So you see how that just glues on really nicely, and you can just press it down if you like. And if the words are showing through too much on here, you could always start by putting white paper on it first and then put your fabric on. I'm going to keep going and cover my whole box. So now we're going to put the ends on the box. We just cut out a piece of fabric that fits on there, and we're just gluing it down. And there's a little extra at the top. I didn't quite cut that the right size, but that's okay. It's better to have more fabric than less, because you can always trim it off to fit. And I probably should use smaller scissors, but again, save your scraps. So it's coming along. Our box is starting to come along. And don't worry if there's like a little bump right here along this part, because this is where the box lid opens and closes, and it needs a little bit of a bump there. All right, let's do the other side. Okay, so now that we've got all sides of our box glued with fabric, and I trimmed off one of these little flaps so it kind of matches the other side, I'm going to just trim off some of these little threads hanging off the end of the fabric. Just clean that edge up a little bit. Then I think I'm going to glue a ribbon on there just to kind of clean up that edge, make it a little nicer looking. So I've got this satin ribbon, and if I just glue that on there, if you have a wide ribbon, you could also fold it over the edge and try that. Although this kind of box lid that tucks in is going to get a lot of wear on the edge. So I would be careful about wrapping something over. So let's find the right length here. And I'm just going to trim that. Got my little scissors now. These work a little bit better for small things. And again, just paint the glue on there. And you're going to just glue that ribbon right along the edge to keep that a nice edge there. Alright, now my box looks a little rough on the edges here around where the side of the box is, so I think I'm going to glue a little bit of ribbon right along there as well. I'm just going to trim that, and again paint some glue on there, and you can do that all around the edges of your box if you like. Alright, so now that we've got our ribbons on the edges of our box like this, and they're drying, the glue is on there. And remember, when you're all done, make sure you rinse your brush out really well. If you leave the glue on your brush and let that dry, that could ruin your brush. So we want to protect our tools and always clean up well. Now you can do the same thing with paper. You don't have to do it with fabric, but I kind of like the way the fabric looks. All right, that is one way to save a cardboard box. You can put anything you want in there, toys or art supplies. I think we'll make a little sewing kit. Okay, now that we've finished our sewing kit box, we're going to be making a little thing out of felt that holds your needles. So this is something that's great for older kids, or have your parent help you with this, because you'll need to cut out some felt. You'll need a needle and thread and a little bead that you want for the center of your flower here. Of course, you'll need scissors, and you'll need 4 different colors of felt like this. For the inside, you'll need 2 layers of white felt and 1 layer of white for the outside. So make sure you have a bigger piece of white. Plus you'll need a good solid darker color for the outside, front and back. So make sure you have enough for that. So the next step is to cut out your pieces. So actually what I did was I cut out from a piece of stiff paper a template that I want to use. So there's 2 hearts here. There's a bigger one and a slightly smaller one. And when you're designing your heart shape, make sure that you don't have your this center point that comes down. Make sure it's not too far down. You want it to be kind of flat like this. That way when you stitch across the top, you can capture more of the felt. You won't have a big gap there in the middle. So I'm going to just lay the big one on my darker fabric that I want to be my background, and I'm going to draw around it. You can also just hold it on the fabric and just cut it. And you're going to want to cut out 2 of these. Okay, so we've cut out 2 front and back pieces of our heart in red and 3 smaller pieces of the heart in white using our smaller template. Remember to save all of your little scraps. You can use those for a project another time. Now the next thing we want to do is work on the front of it. So the front of our finished piece is going to have a little flower on it, and you can do whatever design you want. You could do a heart or a circle or a planet or anything like that. But I'm going to cut out a little flower out of purple. All right, so now I've cut out my little purple flower for the front, and I also cut out a little red circle to go in the middle, and I'm going to have this white bead right in the center of that. So you want to get your needle, have a grown-up help you, put a little bit of thread on there. I tied a double knot in the end of mine, and I like to double the thread so that it doesn't accidentally fall out of the needle there. Now when you come through the center of your little flower end, flower center, don't pull too hard on the thread or it will pull right through the felt. You just want to gently get that in there. And then you want to go through your bead like that, and then you're going to want to stitch right down through on the other side of the bead. So this kind of holds the bead in place, and the bead is going to hold this flower together. So I'm going to do that a couple of times. Just go ahead and stick the needle through, and then stick it through the hole of the bead like that, and then down to anchor the bead and the flower in place. There, that's looking pretty good. I think I'll do it one more time, and then that will hold my flower together. All right, looking good. There, okay. Now we want to tie a knot on the back to hold that all together. And what I do to tie a little knot is take one more stitch, and then what you have is a loop. See that big loop? So now that we have a loop, I'm going to make my loop a little smaller by pulling on my needle, and I'm going to pass the needle through that loop and catch it on the other side and pull it through. But see what I did? I grabbed the back of my thread with my finger. I didn't let it go when I pulled it through, and just kind of pull down until you have another loop. Go back through that loop again with your needle and catch it on the other side and pull down. It's kind of like ratcheting it down, and you've got another loop. See that? You can do that a few times and that'll make a knot. And catch that loop, hold the needle as it comes through the other side, and grab the resulting loop you make in the back. Now, after doing that about 3 times, I just go ahead and pull it through all the way till it's tight, and that makes a knot down at the bottom. That's a special little way that I learned how to make your final knot. I'm going to trim off the excess threads, and now we're ready to attach our flower to the front of our heart. So we can stitch that on, or we can glue it on. Gluing works just fine. And you can see in our final resulting one that we have a little green leaf there too. So I'm going to just tuck my little leaf under there. I think this one will be easier to just glue on. Okay, so for the next part, we're going to go ahead and, while this glue is still drying, I'm going to stitch around the inside of this to make them attach. So you're going to want to get your needle and thread ready, tie it off at the end with a nice double knot, have a grown-up help you, and you're probably going to want to start up near the top of your heart up here. The reason I say that is because the little tail end of your thread, you don't want it hanging out at the bottom when you're all done. So now I'm using light blue thread here, but you can use white or whatever color you want. And these stitches don't have to be perfect, and they don't have to be small. You can make them kind of big if you like. The idea is just to hold the white part onto the red part here. Okay, so now that we've stitched this all the way around, we're going to do a knot the same way on the back. We're going to make a little loop, stick our needle through, grab the loop at the far back that comes out, turn the needle around, go back through the loop again, catch the needle as it comes through, and notice how I use my finger to grab that back loop again. I'm going to do that one more time. So make a nice knot, and pull to get the final knot there. Cut that off. All right, now this is still drying. I think that tacky glue is going to work a lot better than regular Elmer's glue to keep that on there. So all we have to do now is just stack up the back and 2 hearts on the inside like this. And we're going to put our final piece on there. And if you have a sewing machine, you can sew them all together across the top edge here, or you can stitch it by hand. And then you've got a little place to put your needles, just like this. Now when you stitch all of your layers of your heart together, you're going to want to take your thread and start on the inside layer and come up through here so that your knot doesn't show on the back. You can trim that little tail part off afterwards, but you're going to want to go through all 4 layers as you stitch. And you're going to go right up through there and just right across the top. And these make really great Mother's Day gifts or birthday gifts.